Okay, what about all the other nitrous products and mega mass
Right.
products and all these chemical concoctions?
I would say creatine is the most studied, and that's been shown by research on a consistent basis to show muscle gains.
Right.
And the typical protocol is 3 to 5 grams per day. The thing about creatine is that it helps to, you're not going to start taking it and then all of a sudden just blow up. It allows you to do additional reps so that over time, for example, like a 12-week period, you're going to see some muscle gains because you've been able to do more repetitions at your workout. So.
Yeah, I was around in that first phase when that became popular, right? That one study came out and said creatine's been shown to increase lean muscle mass,
Exactly.
and it exploded after that. There's so many products. Back in the day, they used to say, hey, you have to super load at first.
Like 20 grams.
Yeah, 20 grams for 5 days or something.
7 days, yeah.
What are we thinking now on that?
You know, it just depends on your goal. If you have a short-term strength goal you're trying to achieve, then a loading protocol of 20 grams for 7 days is appropriate. If you're trying to gain strength over an off-season, the 3 to 5 gram per day is going to be beneficial.
Okay.
Additionally, the smaller doses you're still going to take in some water mass as well, but it won't be as significant as when you're doing a loading phase.
Okay, what about precautions when you're on, is there any precautions when you're on just protein stuff?
Primarily, you just need to make sure you're hydrating overall because excess protein in our diets contributes to frequent urination in order to get rid of some of the nitrogen that you are excreting from the protein. So you just have to make sure that if you're eating high levels of protein because you're trying to gain some muscle mass, you need to make sure that you're hydrating also throughout the day.
So a little bit more than normal though, right?
Right.
Okay, and what about creatine? You know, you're hearing a lot about creatine of, it's dangerous, cramping,
Right.
and all this other stuff.
Yeah, research doesn't really show there isn't too many negative side effects to taking creatine, just because your body, typically, for example, if you eat meat, you may or may not even respond to creatine.
Right.
There may be, typically our vegetarian athletes will respond because they're getting in creatine, which normally people that eat meat would be getting in from those products. So in terms of just precautions on that, for example, any kind of weight sport like wrestling, creatine really wouldn't be that beneficial to be doing during season when you're trying to make weight because it's going to bring in some extra water and
So
therefore
you're going to have a harder time making your weights, right? And that's true. I think that's been the thing that everybody's overlooked all these years is if you're eating the typical American diet and you already have a lot of protein, creatine supplementation is not going to
No,
get
probably
you
don't
much.
need it, especially if you're eating pork and salmon, which are great sources of creatine already. And remember, our body makes creatine additionally, so most people really just don't need it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point of the whole thing too, is that I think the other confusion is what kind of athletes use creatine. And there is science to this whole thing. We don't need to go into the whole creatine kinase system, but it's explosive athletes.
Exactly.
Because once you get past
10 seconds.
Okay, so 10 seconds. So if you got a sport, less than 10 seconds, creatine might help. If it's over 10 seconds.
No, your body starts going into anaerobic glycolysis and then the aerobic system for after 3 minutes.
And there's no creatine used anywhere in that system.
Nope.
Just sugars, right?
That's right. Carbohydrates, and then in aerobic metabolism, you use carbohydrates, protein, and fats.
Okay, so once you shift over, and that's at 3 minutes, correct?
That's right. And that's at 3 minutes, you move into aerobic metabolism.
So there is a science to it, so go ahead and go out. We, at the Terrio Edge, we have a little bit of muscle milk going on, and some EAS Myoplex, and then a little good chocolate milk. Be careful though, because I did read a study years ago where they went out and they bought a bunch of these protein powders, and there was nothing in them. It was sugar water, or it was basically just sugar. So stick with a reputable brand. You don't want to go down and buy Bob's Protein, right?
Exactly. Actually, there's a good online source for checking supplements and do they contain what they have, and then it's called consumerlab.com.
Okay.
And you can look in there for different ingredients. You can see reviews of products that have been tested for purity and potency and having what it says on the label. And Consumer Lab will tell you if it does not.
Yeah, and if you're in college athletes especially, be really, really careful with supplementation because there isn't a lot of regulation on some of that stuff that's out there, and you don't know for sure what's in there. And if they put something in there that wasn't supposed to be, NCAA is not going to blame them.
Nope, you come up with a positive urine test, you are suspended.
Right, so be very, very careful. Muscle Milk actually makes a collegiate brand.
Exactly.
Just that they guarantee that that's
Right, and it's providing no more than 20% of their calories coming from protein,
Right.
which is what, as a strength staff at a college, you cannot provide NCAA athletes with a product with more than 20% of its calories from
Okay.
protein.
It's all the technicalities.
Yeah.
So, protein drinks are okay for replenishing afterwards. Nothing wrong with chocolate milk, especially for our younger guys out there. Stick with chocolate milk. You don't need any of the high-tech stuff yet if you're still in that growing phase. Athletes know that if you're trying to stay lean or if you want the full blow fat, lots of carbs, and lots of protein, lots of calories in these. Again, and then you've got to be careful, right? Because it's real easy to get way too many calories in.
Exactly, then you're balancing it within your whole day's intake.
Right.
So.
And it's still, guys, it's 3,500 calories makes a pound of fat, even if you're an athlete.
Right.
So if you're sucking down a bunch of these and not burning them off, you can still be in shape and gain weight,
Right,
gain
actually,
fat.
and if you're taking in all these additional calories from protein, you can still increase your fat mass, because if your body doesn't need all that, it will store that excess protein as fat.
Right. So more and more and more protein isn't the answer.
No,
Balance,
absolutely.
know what you're taking in, and keep
Timing.
working out.
Timing around your workouts, make sure you have some of this,
Timing, yeah.
especially afterwards.
Got that 30-minute window, right? The nutritional window we talk about. So if you don't have access to actual food, then this isn't a bad way to go to get those nutrients in your body so you can get that super compensation, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, thanks again.
You're welcome.
What was that webpage again to check these?
Consumerlab.com.
Consumerlab.com if you want to know. So before you go and buy some bizarre concoction that one of your buddies tells you, hey, this stuff is great, works great. Consumerlab.com to make sure that they're